Hello, Real Talkers. Welcome back. I hope you had a great summer. And we are ready to start a new season of Real Talk. And I am so excited to have my first guest after the summer. I'm a big fan of hers. Journalist, columnist, author, and many more other things that you should go and check on Wikipedia, so you'll see. But it's an honor to host for me today, Carolyn Glick.
Hi.
Good morning. Good day.
Good morning. We're taping in the morning.
Good morning.
So it's fine.
So going through all your stuff, my favorite Caroline Glick moment, I'm sure they tell you, is the one where you are answering back to Danish governor. I know it's a few years ago in the Jerusalem Post conference.
Yeah, ambassador, yes.
The ambassador.
Uh-huh.
And I'm crazy about this moment. So my question is, Caroline, because when I look at you, I envy you to have such courage and such strength and, say what you think. Where does this fire come from? Like, where does this, power and strength come from? You were born like this?
Well, my parents would probably tell you that I was an obstreperous little girl who never, is stubborn. But I think, first of all, I mean, that day with the Danish ambassador, and of course this is just sort of a routine event when you talk to most people about Israel, is that he was that, very commonplace. It's not at all surprising, a combination of ignorance and patronizing snobbery, that you see particularly with Europeans, but also with progressives, elitists who think that they're better than we are, that they talk down to us, that they know better than we are, and that they have utterly no idea what they're talking about. So, I mean, this is not something that ought to happen once in a blue moon. This is something that ought to happen all the time. These people have to be put in their place because this is a cataclysmic combination, this elitist combination of elitism and ignorance that is just, I've had enough of it, and I don't have any patience for it because it gets people killed. And then the other thing is that I'm not ignorant. And I think that it's very important to put a mirror to these people to show they don't know what they're talking about, and they're anti-Semites. Because, I mean, the concept that Israel should be treated with a standard that's unique just to the Jews, I mean, that's raw anti-Semitism, that there's something uniquely horrible about Israel and about the Jews, about the Jewish collective, about Jews as individuals. We have to be judged by completely different standards under which we always come out guilty, right? I mean, that's the blood libel. No matter what you do, you're guilty. Right. And I personally have no patience for that. And I think that, in that clip, and I think in general, it comes out in my work, because I don't think that we should give any quarter to people, A, who don't know what they're talking about, and B, are advancing concepts that get us killed,
The difference is
Jewish lives matter. Let's just put it out there.
Oh, yes. But the difference between you and other journalists or politicians is that you say what you think. You go straight to the point.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that's a difference. I think it's very important to say what we think. I think that, the concept, I mean, this is one of the things that I find so disappointing about so many people, is that you find that these empty-headed elitists who just are sheep, they just follow a herd, that they exert so much social power over so many people, that people actually care what they think about them. It never made any sense to me. I always think that the people who I should care about their opinions most are the people who are correct, are the people who know what they're talking about, are people who are educated, are people who have values that make sense, let alone that I share, but I mean that you can understand, that make sense, that are human values as opposed to anti-human values, that aren't anti-Israel, that aren't anti-Jewish. I mean, I always thought that it was important to, be viewed as intelligent, as coherent, as admirable in some way by these people, because these are the people who I admire. And yet you find, particularly on the right, that really what moves people, what motivates them when they get up in the morning, is that they want the applause of the elites who are wrong about absolutely everything. And I don't understand. I mean, I do understand on a, you know, a sort of basic level why it would be so important to be embraced by the people who have all the power or whatever. But if they have the power based on nothing, then what do you care what they think of you?
Your sister, Bonnie Glick, is an American diplomat. How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? What did they feed you guys? Strong women. I love that.
Thank you. Well, I also have two brothers who are no. I have enormous respect for them. I have a brother who's a professor at the University of Chicago Medical School. I have a brother who's a businessman, who's an investor and, you know, investment consultant. And they do important work, and they have wonderful families. So, you know, I don't think that there's anything particularly, you know, Bonnie, my sister, and I, you know, we both were very interested in foreign affairs. And she wanted to remain in the United States and serve in the diplomatic service of the United States government. She took the Foreign Service exam when she was an undergraduate. She passed it. I think she passed it as an undergraduate. Anyway, and she was served in the Foreign Service of the United States for over a decade, and it was actually funny. Bonnie was in.
She's older than you.
Yeah, she's 3 years older than I am. She was in the National Security Council in the White House, working there as a desk officer from the State Department, at the same time that I was in the Prime Minister's office, serving as Netanyahu's assistant foreign policy advisor in the 90s. And so that was sort of that was kind of a funny thing. But generally speaking, you know, we were very supportive of one another. We're sisters, obviously. And
amazing.
Yeah. As for what we ate, I don't know. I had peanut butter sandwich every day for breakfast, you know.
Maybe that's what's missing here.
Yeah, more Skippy. Everybody needs more Skippy peanut butter in the morning. That's right.
But you fell in love with Israel.
Yeah, actually.
What's your love affair with Israel?
Well, you know, I mean, there is a question about the sustainability of American Jewry, right? At least I asked the question, and I asked the question. And most American Jews don't ask that question. Right. So that, I think, was what separated me from my siblings and from my immediate family, and from my extended family. And for me, it really, the sort of shattering moment came actually, we're heading towards the 40th anniversary of it this week, which is the massacre in Sabra and Shatila during the First Lebanon War. The biggest blood libel that Israel had suffered till that time. Right. And I remember, you know, I was 12. It was 40 years ago. Now you know I'm 52. But I was 12 years old when it happened. And it was just, you know, it was at that 12. It's not for nothing that girls get bat mitzvah when they're 12 and boys when they're 13. This is a very key time in the development of young people, so the sort of the adolescence moving on to high school and teenage years, where you're really, your personality in a lot of ways is really kind of, I wouldn't say fixed, but very, you know, becomes very strong. And we had been to Israel in the summer of '82 for the first time, and I had learned about the history of Zionism. We began it in 7th grade, I think, and I was very inspired by Israel and by Zionism. And
this was 12.
This was when I was, I think in the 6th or 7th grade. And then they had this event that happened where Christian Arab militias were, you know, involved with killing the civilians in Sabra and Shatila refugee camps. And nobody reminds anyone that there was a massive massacre on the part of the PLO of Christians in Damour on the road to Beirut just before. Everybody always forgets the Damour massacre. But at any rate, I mean, this is a blood feud, right, between Lebanese. Yeah. And Israel was there because we had a strategic interest in getting the PLO out of Lebanon, as, by the way, did the Christians. But we were blamed for something that was an internecine fight between the factions in Lebanon. And the thing that shocked me the most was the way that the American Jews, the leadership, in Chicago, where I was growing up, and then I guess nationally, although I was much more aware of what was happening inside Chicago when I was 12, they just turned their back on Israel. And they said, we're embarrassed. We're ashamed of Israel as Jews. I thought, what are you doing? How are you doing this? You know that this isn't true. You just don't want to say it because you're embarrassed. Because why? Because you want your friends on the left to like you tomorrow? Right. You think that they'll respect you more for turning your back on your people today? Why do you think that? What do you think is going to happen to the situation of American Jewry if they see that a little bit of pressure and you crumple and then you turn your back on Israel? And I was so shocked by the treachery, by the betrayal, by the refusal to take a stand, by the refusal to stand up for Israel in the face of this blood libel, that I said to myself, I started asking some pretty hard questions about my relationship with the Jewish community, if I wanted to maintain it over time, if I didn't want to maintain it over time. What kind of life did I want to live? Did I just want to assimilate and become an American, maybe go to West Point, join the U.S. Army, and just forget about the Jewish part, or did I want to make Aliyah? And those two seem to be the only possible answers that I could find. And obviously I've mellowed over the intervening 40 years in terms of seeing middle roads between the two, but at that time it seemed to me that if you felt that being a Jew had more meaning than just going to synagogue or being the Napoleonic code of being a Jew at home and being a Frenchman outside of the house or an American outside of the house, then I should make Aliyah. And so it was really at that point that I decided that I was moving here.
And you have been fighting since then?
Yep. I was fighting before that and fighting since. Yeah, I guess you got to do what you're passionate about.
I don't know if I wonder if you share the same thought that I had, but I think there's a new phenomenon happening right now, because who used to fight for the Jewish identity were the Haredi, the religious Ashkenaz type of person, and now this new phenomenon, which I think to me it's like really very, very strong, that this who's fighting for the Jewish identity right now, whether it's in media or in politics, is the Sephardi, non-religious type of
also
person.
Sephardic religious.
Sephardi religious. I look at Yinon Magal in the media, Erit Lino, and Galit Distal in the politics. They are the ones who are really trying to make this country survive.
Well, I should let your viewers know. My actual full name is Carolyn Glick Suissa. My husband Shimon is, he was born in Morocco, and he
Suissa is Morocco,
right. He made Aliyah when he was a baby, but we're. So our family is we call ourselves
it's an intermarriage.
We call ourselves a Moroccaim. We're half American, half Moroccan. But it's because there's something very strange, and it's coming very much to a fore now with the progressivism of the Ashkenazi elite in Israel, which is fundamentally post-Jewish, not just post-Zionist. They're both, they're the same thing, just like anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. It's just a different form, right? So post-Judaism and post-Zionism are the same thing. And there's a fundamental rejection on the part of the Ashkenazic elites in Israel today of Israel's Jewish identity. You see with people in the Paklitud, in the State's Attorney's Office, and the Attorney General's Office, who are trying to ban Judaism from the public square, and separate events for women and men, like this is something terrible, but of course they wouldn't do that in an Arab village or an Arab city, right? Only among Jews. So you're banishing Judaism from the public sphere, or traditional Judaism from the public sphere, and of course Merav Michaeli is pouring millions and millions of shekels into Reform and conservative Judaism in Israel when there are no Reform and conservative Jews in Israel. And she certainly doesn't care about that because she doesn't believe in God or anything. So it's not like this is out of religious conviction, it's completely political. And when you look at, Sephardic Jewry, if we want to make large categorizations, but like my father-in-law, Rav David Suisse, when they made Aliyah from Casablanca, it wasn't because he read a Chada'am or Aleph Dalet Gordon, or he was part of some sort of revolutionary socialist movement, and he thought that this was the solution to the Jewish problem. It was because he prayed every day in the synagogue, and it says "V'techazena einenu shuvcha leTzion barachamim," right? It's because Judaism is Zionism. Because it's time to go home. All right, let's go, let's move, let's leave. And there's never any real question about the inherent nature of Israel as a Jewish state. And so when Sephardic Jewry sees that this is now under attack in the basest form everywhere, I think that people are saying, what's going on? You can have these highfalutin arguments about socialism or capitalism or whatever. When you come to the fundamental aspect of the Jewish identity of the country, then people are going to stand up. And the other thing is that you see really that, the sort of hegemonic concept of the Ashkenazic elite, that they can, and you see it in different ways in the United States, in the way that the progressives are kind of trying to, as Barack Obama said, fundamentally transform the United States on every single level. So here too, you see that we have an incredibly politicized legal fraternity that is going after a very certain type of person, type of politicians, in particular Netanyahu, but not only. Before him, Aryeh Deri, the head of Shas, and Ben Izri, was a member of Knesset and a minister of Shas, and so many others that were all on one side of the political fence, or even Chaim Ramon, who is a leftist, but he wanted to reform the legal fraternity. He wanted to rein them in from all the powers that they've seized without legal basis. And so they go after everybody who tries to rein them in, and they go after Sfaradim, and they go after right-wingers. And so this feeling that the Jewish character of Israel is under massive attack by the cultural elites, by the academic elites, and most important, by the legal elites in this country that have seized dictatorial powers here, I think that has awoken a lot of people to the problem. The other thing that happened was in the army. It was Elor Azaria, who was a sergeant in the Kfir Brigade, and in the Kfir Brigade, and just as all of this stuff was coming out about how radicalized the general staff of the IDF has become, with Yair Golan, who was the deputy chief of staff of the army at the time, saying on Erev Yom HaShoah that that Israel reminds him of Nazi Germany in an official speech. And then Elor Azaria kills a terrorist who had just been shooting at his friend in Hebron, and the terrorist is prone. And there's questions about whether he operationally behaved properly or not, but they turned him into the scapegoat. Right. Because there was this B'Tselem photographer there who shot a very canned picture and images of what happened in Hebron to incriminate Elor Azaria. And then you saw the whole elites and the whole general staff of the army, headed by Gadi Eisenkot at the time, just coming down on him like a wall of bricks. And here's Elor Azaria, the Sephardic soldier from Ramle, and it was the first time that people realized, this isn't just, the hilltop youth, that this is anybody who is defending Jews, that they're just going after us too, that this isn't limited, this isn't a political dispute between Gush Emunim, between the elite Ashkenazic settlers on the one hand and the elite Ashkenazic leftists from Shalom Achshav on the other hand. They're actually going after Amcha Yisrael, and I think that also woke a lot of people up.
You've done so much. You've been in the army, in politics, journalist, writing articles, books. What has left? You're only 52 years old.
Only. Sometimes I feel quite old. It depends.
What's the plans?
I don't know.
Movie.
Movies. I've been in movies. No,
it's true.
I've done movies.
Well, is something you want to do that you haven't done yet?
Yeah, but we don't talk about these things because we don't want to tempt.
We don't want to
tempt the evil eye. Everybody has their dreams. But look, I mean, I started with when I was 12, right? And why did I want to make Aliyah? And I think that my basic motivation and, you know, what I pray for the most on a personal level, aside from, you know, obviously my family, my children, my husband, my mother and my siblings, etc., is that, you know, I want to be able to continue to do what I do best, which is, you know, tell the truth about our people and our country and defend ourselves. So I think, you know, I do that well, and I want to make sure that I always have the ability to do that, and that I also have the means to do it at whatever platform, at whatever level. So, I mean, that's really, you know, that's who I am.
Nice.
You know?
Do you believe Mashiach is coming?
I did. I thought, you know, I thought we were on the gates of Geulah, you know, when we had the sovereignty plan unrolled at the White House and everything like that. There was a real feeling that we had to change it, not Rashit Tzmichat Geulah, you know, that we were like in the midst of it and everything else, and we were going to have to change the way we were thinking about it. Now, I don't really know. I katonti. I can't tell what's happening, but I think the shifa, the aspiration that we are worthy of redemption, is really what we have to be worrying about. It's not so much what God does; it's how we behave.
Nice,
you know.
Nice. But you're positive, like.
Well, I'm positive I'm positive about always having to do the right thing and just keep working at it. Otherwise, you don't really know what's going to happen. But I'm positive about our capacity to withstand obstacles and to move forward forthrightly. But that's all that I can be responsible for. So.
Caroline, continue doing what you do.
Thank
because you. It's all of us. You are our hero, at least for me.
Shana tova.
Shana tova lach. Toda rabba. Thank you so much for coming here and for taking your time.
Thank you.
And thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.